Alright, it's video 2 for AP Euro on Wednesday, April 29th. The real cost of the Crimean War, however, was the concert of Europe. The idea that the great powers, France, Prussia, Russia, Austria, and the Great Britain should work together, a concept that emerged from the Congress of Vienna, was finally shattered. This conflict was the first European war since the Napoleonic era. Previously, Russia and Austria had worked together to resist the trend towards nation building. After all, both were large, multi-ethnic empires with much to fear from nationalistic movements among ethnic minorities. During the Crimean War, the Germans and other Europeans had no sense of unity on such questions. Additionally, the British public was horrified by the course of events in the Crimean region as a result. Great Britain became more isolationist regarding European affairs. This meant that when Austria stood up in opposition to the building of states in Germany and Italy, it received no support from an embittered Russia. And when France found itself confronting Prussia in 1870, it would find little sympathy across the English Channel. All right, unification of Italy. In 1848, Italian liberals made an aborted attempt to create an Italian state. Although the attempt failed, the dream for a state never disappeared. Following the collapse of a short-lived Roman Republic, Pope Pius IX, when his authority in Rome was restored, inspired increasingly reactionary policies. Liberals no longer saw any potential for realization of a federation of Italian states headed by the Pope. Although some liberals wanted nothing less than the creation of an Italian republic, an increasing number looked with hope to the kingdom of Piedmont, Sardinia, the one Italian state that had preserved its liberal constitution since the year of revolutions. The true architect of the Italian unification was not the king, but Victor Emmanuel, but Count Camillo de Cavour, his chief minister. Cavour was quite different from earlier Italian nationalists like Giuseppe Mazzini, who saw state building in romanticized terms. Cavour was a far more practical individual who primarily sought ways to enhance the power of Sardinian state. Cavour realized that creating an Italian state would require the expulsion of Austria from the Italian peninsula. Events in 1848 foreshadowed the impossibility of succeeding in this expulsion without the aid of some other European state. So Cavour entered into a secure alliance with France. Cavour had set the groundwork for this relationship by cleverly entering the kingdom of Piedmont, Sardinia in the Crimean War on the side of France and Great Britain. And although its participation was minimal, it earned Napoleon III's gratitude. Napoleon III was additionally interested in aiding Sardinians because Austria was a traditionally enemy of the French state. Napoleon III also periodically looked for foreign military adventures so that he could live up to his famous namesake, something that would eventually lead to his downfall. The war began in 1859. The combined French and Sardinian forces won a series of battles against Austrians, but Napoleon decided to bring the conflict to a close before expelling the Austrians from all Italian lands. He was horrified by the high number of casualties from the conflict, something that he never seemed to bother his uncle, and was threatened by Prussia, who was massing troops on the Rhine to come to the aid of the Austrians. Cavour was so angered over Napoleon's abortion of the war and his betrayal of the treaty that he resigned as prime minister, though a year later he resumed the office. Both Cavour and Napoleon sought to create a state that would unite northern Italy. Napoleon did not want to see the entire Italian peninsula unified for fear that a large Italian state could be a threat to France. But to Cavour's and Napoleon's surprise, and to the latter's greater displeasure, the war against Austria helped inspire popular rebellions throughout the Italian peninsula. And in the Austrian-dominated regions of Tuscany, Parma, and Modena, revolts led plebiscites to join with the Sardinia. Meanwhile, in the south of Italy emerged one of the most intriguing characters in Italian history, Giuseppe Garibaldi. Garibaldi was a link to the old romantic tradition of Italian nationalism. He had one time been a member of the Mazzini's Own Italy movement. Horrified over the terms of the treaty with Sardinia and France, which required Italy to hand over Savoy and Nice to France, Garibaldi at first threatened to attack France with the loss of what he considered to be Italian territories. Cavour instead encouraged Garibaldi to invade the Kingdom of Two Sicilies, thinking that it would be a suicide mission. To everyone's surprise, Garibaldi led his famous Army of 1,000 Red Shirts and conquered this southern Italian kingdom, which had been ruled with great incompetence by the Bourbons. Garibaldi wanted to march on Rome and make it the new capital of unified Italy, but this threat to papal control of the city would have greatly antagonized Napoleon III, who found it useful for his popularity among the French to portray himself as defender of the church. Cavour was horrified by the idea that the vastly popular Garibaldi might seek to unify Italy under his own charismatic leadership rather than under Piedmont's control. To curtail this possibility, Cavour rushed the troops to Naples to block Garibaldi from his march. Cavour was interested in the papal lands, however, and he shrewdly waited for a popular revolt in the papal states to commence, and only then, under the pretext of restoring order, moved Sardinian troops into all the lands controlled by the Pope, except for the city of Rome. This was followed by the declaration of Victor Emmanuel as the first king of Italy in 1861. After the successful invasion of papal lands, only Venetia, Rome, were now under the unified Italian flag. In 1866, after Prussia's victory over Austria, The Italians used the opportunity of Austria's vulnerability to seize Venetia. Rome was added in 1870 and named as a new capital following the withdrawal of French troops from the city as a result of the Franco-Prussian War. The new Italian nation was beset with problems and plagued by corruption and bribery. For more romantically oriented nationalists like Garibaldi, the new Italy was a cold, bureaucratic state led by petty officials from Sardinia, inspiring little of the passion that they had felt for the cause of statehood. To this day, there is an economic divide between the north of Italy, with its highly industrialized, and the far more economically backward south. A major problem for the new state was the continually hostility of the Catholic Church, which banned Catholics from participating in national education elections, even though Catholics widely ignored this order. In fact, the Church would not fully reconcile with the Italian state until 1929, when Mussolini agreed to restore the sovereignty of the Vatican City to the papacy. So let's look at the key concepts real quick. I accidentally closed my window out for this. Pull this back up. Okay, let's see. Come on, guys. All right, there we go. All right, so this is still Unit 6. All right. Why are we getting some 7? Yeah, some of this is stuff that applies to us. Let's go back to 6.2, and we covered all that. Yeah, 6.3 is second wave. We haven't really done second wave of industrialization yet. 6.4 is social effects of industrialization. In industrialized areas of Europe, socioeconomic changes created divisions of labor that led to the development of self-conscious classes, including the proletariat and bourgeoisie. Some of the less industrialized areas of Europe, the dominance of agricultural elites continued in the 20th century. Class identity developed and was reinforced through participation in philanthropic, political, and social associations among the middle classes and in mutual aid societies, and trade unions among the working classes. With migration from rural to urban areas and industrialized regions, cities experienced overcrowding, while affected rural areas suffered declines in available labor as well as weakened communities. Bourgeois families became focused on the nuclear family and the cult of domesticity, with distinct gender roles for men and women. In the century, higher wages, laws restricting labor for children and women, social welfare programs, improved diet, and increased access to birth control affected the quality of life for working classes. Economic motivations for marriage, while still important for all classes, diminished as the middle-class notion of the compassionate marriage began to be adopted by the working classes. Leisure time centered increasingly on the family or small groups, concurrent with the development of activities spaces on that time. We got Continental Europe already. Let's see. Ideas and reforms. Socialists call for redistribution of society's resources and wealth, and evolved from a utopian to a Marxist scientific critique of capitalism. Marxist scientific socialism provided a systematic critique of capitalism and deterministic analysis of society and historical evolution. Anarchists asserted that all forms of government authority were unnecessary and should be overthrown and replaced with a society based on voluntary cooperation. Haven't done reform movements yet. Institutional responses. Not doing that yet.